On this episode of the Dudes and Dads podcast, we talk with Menessah Mullet about mental health.
You're listening to the Dudes and Dads podcast, a show dedicated to helping men be better dudes and dads by building community through meaningful conversation and storytelling. And now, here are your hosts, Joel DeMott and Andy Lehman.
Joel DeMott.
Hi, Andy Lehman.
Yo, welcome back.
Hey, it is the season, my friend.
To be jolly.
I'm trying to be jolly. It's as I've noticed, the weather there's a chill in the air. We've already seen some snow,
And then it went warm again.
It did. It doesn't. You can't take anything for granted in these.
No.
The later November, early December. Who knows? Who knows what we'll get?
Who knows?
It's Northern Indiana.
This is the last episode, though, of the season and of the year.
Wow.
Right? We'll be back.
Eventually.
in January. Well, maybe we have a special little drop or two.
We do. We've got some things. I mean, we'll do some fun things during the holiday season. Things we'll share, which is good. But as far as the normal episode, we are concluding season 4.
Holy moly!
Going to be season 5, Andy, in the new year.
I can't believe we've been doing it that long.
Time flies when you're having fun, and
we're having fun.
We're having so much fun. Should be illegal. Hey, everybody, welcome. Good to have you with us. So glad you could join us for this episode. We're in the holiday season, Andy, and as we enter this time of year, many of us have celebrated already the Thanksgiving and or the Friendsgiving or the friends and relatives giving. Some combination. What did you guys do for Thanksgiving, Andy?
We hung out with Julie's parents.
Nice.
So, and her family, they came to town.
Very nice. Would you say what was the hit for you guys of Thanksgiving dinner this year?
Oh man, the pie.
The pie,
always. Yeah.
Nice. I was on pie duty for Thanksgiving this year.
Yeah. How did that fare for you?
Well, here's you'll know exactly when I tell you. We got Essen House pies.
Oh, okay.
And I am not sure. I'm not sure, but I think this is the first time I went there the day before Thanksgiving to get the pies.
Oh yeah,
guys, lines out the door.
Oh man,
it was a thing. But here I'm going to go, and if I hopefully this will not create any ruckus. But as I finally, after waiting in line, made my way up at the Essen House Bakery, who should appear but our good friend,
good St. Nick,
close, our good friend Joel Miller.
Oh yeah, Joel.
He was running a tight ship back there, and he just came right up to me and said, he looked and goes, "What do you need?"
Nice.
And so Joel himself put my pies, put the pies in the boxes, got me ready to go, got me out of there. The deal was, though, is once you got your stuff, you had to then get in another line to check out. So it was like just line after line after line. But I came through on the pies. Everybody was happy. And here's my the one sad thing. This year, we did some turkey, but we did roast beef this year.
Oh,
it was delicious. But no green bean casserole, Andy. Oh, and we've talked about
that on the show
green bean
before.
Casserole. It is my staple. It's my comfort food during Thanksgiving, and it was noticeably absent from the. And this is no one's fault. I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not throwing any shade, but I do love me some green bean casserole. Anyway. So yeah, we've made it through Thanksgiving, and recently also the other nice thing, this holiday season we just celebrated my Grandma Carla's 90th birthday.
Happy birthday, Grandma Carla.
Man, she's this lady. I don't know, Andy, how you feel. There are certain people in your life that you have sort of like captured at a certain age. Like my Grandma Carla will always be 55, about 55, 60 years old to me.
Okay.
For like she's just and my first car in high school was a 1989 Grand Prix SC. It was a nice little sporty number.
I thought you were going to name it Carla.
Yeah, so wouldn't that been great? Now that in retrospect, I probably should have. She had that car and gave it to me for my first car when I was a mere 16 years old, and but she had put a bumper sticker on it. This is my grandma. She had a bumper sticker on the back of that car that said, "Been there, done that."
Nice.
Like that's how this lady rolled. So she's always captured in my mind. That as in that stage of life, and super fun. We were so glad got together with the cousins and my grandma's kids, so my dad and my aunt and my uncle, and then the other relatives. So good times there. But it just reminded me, it was another thing of, hey, we're in this holiday season, people are getting together, we're doing things. It's a time of celebration. It's a good time, but here's the deal. It's not that way for everybody, and some years, when there might be an empty spot at the table, whatever it might be, where we realize that, this holiday gathering time and all this excitement and these good things also can come with difficult memories, can come with the remembrances of loss, all those sort of things, and then in the worst case scenario, this can be a really, really dark time for people, just in terms of how they're feeling, how they're coping with life, walking through life, and so that's why we're here tonight, Andy. That's what this episode is all about. It's talking about the holiday season and mental health and everything that goes along with that.
But first, we want to remind you that this episode is sponsored by Everence Financial. It is helping individuals and organizations, congregations, and with financial services built on a foundation of faith. Meet your local team at everence.com/Michiana. Securities offered through Concourse Financial Group Securities Incorporated, member FINRA/SIPC.
Nicely done. Thanks, Everence. Everence has been a really great partner, by the way, this year. We're super glad to have them along. So thanks so much. So also, everybody, we want to say that this episode is furthermore supported by Formational Coaching Services, providing coaching and counseling service for individuals, families, and professional groups. If you or your organization are needing help taking the next step toward greater health, wholeness, and overall purpose, visit formationalcoaching.com for more information. That's formationalcoaching.com. Okay.
All right. So tonight, Joel, welcome our guest.
Hey, tonight we have none other than our good friend Menessah Mullet with us. Menessah, hi. Thanks for coming.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Hey, we always try to get we try to claim that we have professional people here on these shows, and this for sure. For real, we do have a real professional with us. So, Menessah is a licensed therapist, and I'm trying to read my notes, Andy, and my screen isn't scrolling, so it's like I just had a moment of didn't sound like I knew what I was talking about. Oh, yes, so sorry. Menessah is a licensed mental health counselor and really specializes in, which is another really cool thing that I'd love to talk about, in the area of art therapy. Which I'll just say as we've talked about it, and I've kind of seen some of the things that she does. It's a really, really creative thing. So yeah, Menessah is a good friend, a colleague, somebody that that I've worked with, and so we're just glad to have you along. Before we get into all the weeds of mental health, talking about this season, talking about really just, I guess, helping give tools and perspective to what can make the holiday season difficult. Just tell us about your family, your background, educational work, where you work, all the stuff that you do. Give us all the normally
Cliff notes?
Normally we say the dude stats, but you're not.
Yeah, the dudette stats. You can tell us, give us all the bio information.
So I am married to, of course, a Dudes alumni.
Yeah,
right.
Awesome. Yeah,
the Dudes and Dads alumni. Yeah,
Justin Mullet.
He's been on the show before, so it's not super awkward. But what I will say is, Justin was on the show here talking about getting married to Menessah, and and what that process was like. So I think clearly he represented everything okay because Menessah was willing to come onto the show.
Or maybe she's coming onto the show to like defend herself.
Yeah.
Like that may be what she's doing.
I felt like everything was handled.
My own agenda.
Yeah, I think everything was handled fairly. So yeah, so you've you got a husband, Justin.
Mm-hmm. I have a son, a 12-year-old, almost 13 next month.
So that's right. You and I are in the so Aaron just turned 13. Oh. So you and I we're experiencing yet another thing. We're experiencing this first teenager thing and the same
hormones and
so many feelings.
So much happening.
Many feelings. In that
Whatever
right, Andy?
day it will be.
In that right, Andy? Yeah. Okay, so Justin,
so
and
husband, son. Let's see. From northern Indiana, lived away from the area for about 15 years, out in Colorado and Arizona, and moved back about 9 years ago, and spent a lot of time in the administration world for youth development and nonprofit social services, child protection services, while Lucas was kind of in the school, and I had to be with him in the evening, and then finally kind of just switched over when he got to be old enough to stay home by himself. So switched over, and last January started a private practice in Walker's, Indiana. So,
which is
Essential Grace Services.
Yes, and I just have to say, I think. Put it this way. I know the impact that Essential Grace Services has made on families. You right now, you kind of focus in the area of working with women and with youth specifically. And in our area, as it is other places, the need for mental health services super high. As I've talked with Menessah, the conversation is never about whether or not she has enough clients. It's all managing clients, and she also teaches as well. And so,
but that's a good thing, though. I mean, that we're seeing people that are seeing the need for mental health.
Yeah. And that the stigma is.
Do you feel like
lessening?
it's changing? Yeah, in our area, because we're not on the coast and we're not, we're just not quite as progressive and forward thinking, I guess. Like it does feel like anytime you start talking about mental health, any therapy, things like that, that is, as I like to say, can feel like a lot of hippie woo-woo stuff to people. And, feelings.
Yeah.
Well, and especially for me, like the counseling work that I do, like if you're working with men too, that's like which we can get to that, but like that's even another hurdle. It feels like of expectations of what it means to be strong and to be, to have this kind of image or whatever, and then
people think that if you need to have people. You need to talk to somebody about your emotions, then you're not a man.
Yeah, exactly right.
Very true.
So, Menessah, I guess I would also ask what led you down the road of becoming a mental health counselor? Like, what was there a beam of light that struck you from heaven and you just knew your calling, or is it? Because I find like a lot as someone coming from vocational ministry, I find that like therapists, mental health workers in general, and like, social service folks and pastors, like there is kind of an overlap in terms of like kind of almost discerning a kind of a call on life sort of thing. So I just wonder how that transpired for you.
Well, really, I started out in my undergrad in criminal psych and then decided that it wasn't for me. So I did art.
So I feel like that was your own therapy. Like you had to like kind of like backtrack a little bit. Menessah has told me some of the things, and I won't go into great detail, but when you're studying criminal, like when you're doing criminal psych, there's some pretty gory and unnerving things.
Yeah, they're trying to feed you out. They're trying to see like who can stand this.
Yeah.
So let's just show you the goriest.
So it's like
photos.
So it's like crime scene photos and all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
I mean, I was in the class and students were vomiting and leaving.
Oh man.
And I was like, oh, maybe I'll go to graphic design.
Okay. All right.
So here I am in my fourth year, and I'm like, third year. Here, let me change my major.
Yeah.
Right when I was getting ready to study abroad. So I actually stayed in school 5 years to finish enough credits to go on to my master's. But I was partway through graphic design and wanted to spend more time with people. And so really just wanted to have the interaction because I was in the lab. At that time, we didn't have laptops. So it was zip drives.
Wow. Yeah. So
So
great.
I wanted to spend time with people. And so literally Googled kind of art and therapy or art and people and came up with art therapy and found a school in Chicago and ended up there a year later.
So tell me a little bit about what that looks like if someone's going to come to you for art therapy. Like what can someone expect?
Good question. So actually just did a workshop down in the Dominican where I spoke about this. And I think a lot of people think that when they come and do art therapy, people are going to draw something. And I'm somehow this genie that is going to be able to make this wish or know what is happening with them. And it's I would say it's more of the approach taken. So it's the creative outside of the box approach different from art therapy, from talk therapy. So just thinking outside the box, thinking about how to use all the tools that I have in a room to be able to connect and work with someone, rather than just having, and like most adolescents, they don't want to sit there and talk about their feelings.
Sure.
So they would rather draw them or, hide them and pass you a note or text you what's happening. Yeah. And so art does a little bit of that. And I think that's more of the approach than just drawing a picture and having me interpret it.
Yeah. But because when I first, cause I was not terribly familiar with art therapy, and I was like, okay, is this like a Rorschach kind of situation, where ink blot, and they make the client makes various shapes and things on paper, and then Menessah looks at those and goes, "Oh,
I see how you are now."
Yeah, clearly someone didn't love you enough." Not quite that
quite
at
like
all.
that.
No. Yeah.
No.
So in general, like as you've been practicing here recently, do you feel like the need for mental health care is increasing, or, and maybe this is the counter question, or is the awareness of mental health counseling and its availability and kind of the stigma? I'm just trying to figure out, is that decreasing so that more people are willing to come forward, or is the need increasing? And we just have this current social zeitgeist of everything is terrible and broken, and we're just as a society are kind of on the brink. Dark question, I know. Go for it. Let's see. I want to see how you answer.
I would say that the need for mental health has always been there. The issues have evolved. And the stigma has changed. So I think more people feel like it's okay to call for counseling. Mm-hmm. It's okay to call for help. And so I think that has helped, certainly in the rural. I mean, we live out in farm area. Yep. And so blue collar society and very heavy into that. So we don't need help. We're good. Just rub some dirt on it and we'll be fine. And, that helps with mental health. So I think that's been always there as long as I can remember. And even across, I've lived from Australia to, Colorado to Phoenix, and I think it's just always been there. Mm-hmm. However, now the stigma I feel like has changed.
Yeah, it's it feels like that's been a big win. On the other side, though, there's just a shortage of mental health clinicians to meet the need. Mm-hmm. So just for me
definitely
personally,
have a soapbox for that, but
yeah,
I'm gonna try to bear.
Oh, okay. No. Here we go. Let's get after it. No, but so as the awareness increases and people are becoming more comfortable with it, obviously that also means that we have to have enough resources available to meet the need. Mm-hmm. In my professional experience, and I'm sure as it has been within yours and other therapists that I have talked to over the last couple of years, it's really kind of like the wait lists are long for people. Very long. Very, very long. And particularly like on the marriage counseling side, if you're not like DEFCON 5,
marriage and family, yeah,
you're gonna be waiting a good long time. And then and I think to myself, it's like with couples that I've worked with, it's like, and in the meantime, things are not just getting better for those folks. More than likely, things are going to continue to deteriorate. And maybe by the time that we see someone in our office, it's like the amount of damage that's been done in the meantime. I mean, really feels
made our job harder.
Yeah, right. It's like making it. It was at a 5 when they first called, and we're at a 9 now. Kind of thing. I'll have you get on your soapbox at the end because I want to hear some. I do want to hear some perspective on this. But like, so, what are you right now? What are you seeing, kind of thematically wise? If you're kind of a 30,000-foot view, looking at the mental health needs thematically amongst your clientele, what kind of sticks out to you? What kind of jumps out at you as like the frequent challenges? And obviously, working with kids, there are probably some big stones there, big areas. And then as you're talking to families and moms and women and all of that, what are there some general things that you would identify?
Yeah, I mean, there's certainly, and it's always what the parent reports versus what the kid says is the problems versus what. So, I mean, in general, after working with them for a while, the themes I'm seeing are emotional dysregulation. So that is huge right now. Bullying in schools. I know we say there's no bullying and zero tolerance, but there is just this underlying way that I don't think our community or our society has been able to really grasp and protect bullying from social media and technology in general. I just don't think that we have a very good grasp on that. I think it's easy when someone's yelling at someone in class or picking them in the hallways. I don't think when they're sending hate messages via social media and stuff like that, and then they get everyone else involved. That's hard to avoid to protect kids from. So I'm seeing a lot of that. A lot of kids misdiagnosed. A lot of kids, schools or parents saying that kids have ADHD, misdiagnosed for PTSD, over sensory stimulation, some of that emotional dysregulation stuff. But in just my research lately, a lot of it has come down to how to eliminate some of these symptoms just by a poor diet.
Oh, right. Yeah.
So I if you think about the amount of kind of processed foods and red dyes that we eat and how we rely on that to live after a certain time, that starts to have an effect on our child's development.
Yeah.
And then we see them through the mental health arena. So we don't know, is it a doctor? Is it a medical issue? Is it a mental health issue? And so I'm seeing a lot of that right now. And then, of course, your typical anxiety, depression, which everybody has anxiety, depression, I think, at some point in time. But, there's a spectrum of how large it can be based on, what you have or your environment. So
are you seeing mostly children? Or are you seeing women, adults, men? Yeah,
I see 11 to 26, male and females. So young adults and adolescents. And then I see adult women.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm always very, very quick, which is great. And then I'm always like, whenever I can refer someone to Menessah, like if there's a mom or whoever that's asking about help, but then I always go like, well, I'm just going to send one more person over to Menessah, and hopefully it's not like a complete barrage of people coming, but there's again, the need is there. I feel like on the family side of things, and that's kind of like what I've seen is the anxiety part. And when you dive into that, like either parents experiencing anxiety, or if you have super anxious parents and then they're trying to figure out why their kids are so doggone anxious, right?
No.
Yeah, right.
No.
And I've been really reflecting. I mean, here this past few months, this call to be, and as we talk about being people of faith, being a non-anxious presence in the world, and it's like that's a great gift that we can give to people. But we got to clean house, right? Like there's some things we gotta look into ourselves. We've been talking about technology use amongst young kids here a lot recently, and I am right now stepping into so Aaron got his first laptop here, and he's got his own, which is super great, right? He's got his own Gmail account now, so that's great. But when I'm setting it up, right, with his name, like I'm the steward of that email account initially, right? Well,
right, yeah.
Then he turns 13 and it goes over to him. And that it was like, it's like, oh, okay. So now we're just, as we've been talking recently about how to shepherd all this stuff, how to have those things right sized and not just throw him to the wolves and out into the great beyond. But how technology is forming the mental health of our young people and the use of it. I am like, it's no, and Andy, I don't know if you've ever experienced this, like when you take the piece of technology away from the kid and you see what their response is to it, you'd be like, it's like a withdrawal symptom.
Oh,
right?
Tremendously.
Like you absolutely
Just had this conversation.
Yes. Where it's like, geez Louise.
Right. You'd think you gave him drugs.
Exactly. You're like, it's like you had like a coke problem and you're
right.
like, no more drugs for you. And then they just like watch what happens. Right. What is it possible? And this is what I wonder so often is that just parents even struggling to figure out or to understand how much technology their kid is actually, consuming, how, content that they're consuming, things like this. Because if it weren't for like some of the tools that we use, there's been days when like Jackie and I have been like working on a project at home and the kids are kind of like, they're like doing their own thing and we think they're like doing other stuff. And then we get the update like,
your kids have been on for 8 hours.
100%. Yeah. Like hours upon hours. And you're like, holy cow, how in the world? And then we have to have like the talk about guys, you've not moved. You've not moved all day. You've been
sat on this couch all day.
All day. Like what are the impacts of that for our kids? Like, I mean, because I think it's easy to say like, well, they're just sitting there and they're just watching a video, right? Or they're playing a game. Like how harmful could that possibly be? It's not like they're out, vandalizing things and, being criminals. Like, how bad could it be? What's your response to that? Like what would be your, as you've worked with young people, what would be your guidance in that area?
Well, I think it's case by case. So I certainly, in our own home, experience that. I mean, if we were to talk about just the other weekend, it was like, I'm selling the PS4, taking photos now. It's going on Marketplace. I'm over it. It was on the kitchen and he's crying.
Yeah. Yes. Sure.
So,
Been there.
And then so later I come back and then I have my rational mind and I told him, I said, buddy, if I take it away from you, then you're never going to learn how to manage it. So I'm going to have to teach you, and that's the best thing that I can do as a parent is how to manage something that is addictive.
Yeah.
But here, let me tell you how it's addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how every time that you eat dinner, you want sugar? Okay, if you ask for that 7 days in a row, you might have to say, maybe I can't go without sugar and I need to control this. Same with technology.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I noticed for my son was if he had a friend that let him down or couldn't come over, or if like something fun got canceled, easiest going kid. You say no PS4 for the evening, I'm talking about toddler tantrums and a 12-year-old.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Sure.
And so I actually have kids that I am working with right now that actually really honest, like they are saying, when I am on social media and I'm comparing myself to everything else that's out there, I feel depressed afterwards and I don't want to leave my bedroom for 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
I take it away or it gets put somewhere else and then I just feel so much better. So we know, like these kids that I'm working with, they know that something isn't right, but it's like cocaine, right?
Yep.
It's like a drug. It's addictive. In fact, I feel like I heard sometime that it ignites almost the same part of the brain as drugs.
Yeah.
So it's just crazy.
Yeah.
So what can we do during the holidays? I mean, our kids are going to have more time alone. They're going to have more time at home.
Golly.
How can we help them have a better mental health during the holidays?
Well, a few things that I have been working on with some of my adolescents are, and actually I've worked with some parents too, is we go to our phone for everything.
Right.
We go to our phone for alarms. So we go to our phone for calculator, calendar, everything, right? So in the day and age when this started to happen, we thought, oh, this is so easy. I only need one thing. That's all I need. But if you find yourself going to your phone and being dependent on it for these variable things, down to recipes on Pinterest, then you have to start to say, okay, maybe I need to just get a basic $5 alarm and keep it in my room and charge my phone somewhere else. So trying to find ways to not have them depend on something, not create, because it would be the same as, creating, like if they needed to do something else to they need to depend on another addiction to get through life or to make it to the next step. It'd be the same as saying okay, here's this, use this for this, use your phone. And so I think that if you can start to take away all right, dude, you're going back to a calculator. You're going back out. And those are simple and they sound funny to us because we're we thought it was so cool when we could use our device for everything.
Right.
But it's just, we're going to it for everything. So pick the 5 things that you want to use it for and take away 4 of those if you can.
Yeah. Our conversation, Jackie and I have recently been talking about our kiddos like to listen to, because we've trained them right. They like to listen to podcasts at night, as they're getting ready to go to bed and things like that. Right. And so
they know what's up.
They do know what's up. And they're, it's Red School Bus and That Story Show, our good friend James and, those guys, they listen to a lot of that. One of my kids is listening to an economics podcast, so hopefully that's going to bode well for our future. I don't know. We'll see. But we've been talking about hey, how do we have them able to listen to that at night without having a device, without having a device in their room, and things like that. And so we're trying to figure that out, answer that kind of stuff. But it's like I want you to be able to just simply listen to something and not have to be doing or have access to anything else. And because it always starts with hey, I'm just going to listen to a podcast. And then it's wait a minute, I haven't seen them for.
They've been listening to a podcast for the last 8 hours.
That's weird how that happens. So, so Menessah specifically, I think those are great things to be thinking about, especially as we anticipate our kids being home for a couple weeks and being around. And I always know, as the old Christmas song goes, mom and dad can hardly wait for school to start again by the end.
That's so
true. Isn't it? Fellow moms and dads,
you get it.
That's end of that second week. You're kids, the time has come. Back to school. But outside of that, just looking at the bigger picture, the holiday season is a tough season for people.
Well, and we see a lot more of the mental issues during the holiday. Yeah,
suicide rates increase. That's something that happens. A lot of really unfortunate family gathering interactions. Words said that are not always the kindest or the greatest, or kind of people. Yeah, I mean, coming a little bit unglued in those areas. What is it? I guess what is it about the holidays that just that brings that out in people? What's causing the challenge for people in this season?
Well, I think there's quite a bit that can be said to that. I would just say even the other day I found myself, I started crying. We watched some sappy Hallmark or whatever, so I start crying and I just keep crying. And then, of course I have 2 boys and they're looking at me oh
boy,
what's going on?
What's happening? And I'm well, it was my grandpa's 3-year anniversary that he passed away yesterday. And then we had just put our dog down and my grandpa and that dog were so close. So now I don't have, so I didn't realize so much why I was crying. And then I had to say, Mom, is this the anniversary? And it's your body just knows.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And you may not even know the date so much. Some people do. Some people know it to a T. But I would say your body just starts to know. It's a time where there's extra pressure, lots of triggers. I would say one of the big ones is kind of just that pressure. We're already busy as it is.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a book that I would really recommend, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, which is
there we go.
Tremendously is I would highly suggest that. But so if you just take that book and the concepts from that and then you add Christmas to it, it's almost like tripling the pressure and the busyness, the pressure to have to live up to a certain financial standard that maybe one family member has, but another doesn't, or the expectations that you need to give a certain amount or the other, there's just all those financial pressures. Oftentimes that's kind of the end of the year where people are trying to do things with their own family. They have end of the year expenses, they have things. And so you just throw that on, and then all the strange cooking that you have to have. So it goes outside. So it's not just like your typical grocery shopping. Like you have a whole nother grocery shopping list that's just for these special meals you're making. And so that just adds to the budget. So I think that that's huge. But the pressure to like go to 3 or 4 Christmases or like activities, and then someone throws on because they think it's a fun thing to do, like, oh, in your small group, buy gifts for everyone. And you're like, what? I thought just hanging out with everyone is gift enough.
Wasn't that okay? Yeah.
So like there's just all these things that like happen where you feel like just your presence and your interaction with people isn't good enough. And so I think that that's huge. When we start to hang out with more family, so more family come back, they come back to stay, they're visiting, there's more interaction, more triggers. So if you didn't have the best childhood, more triggers, reminders. Also, it's a time where you do think about family. And so if someone is missing from that family, then that's a huge
well, like
piece.
you were saying, you ended up emotional yesterday. Right. Yeah.
So, that's just, those are a few things that as to why it just multiplies. It just accentuates. If you already have anxiety, depression, you add those onto it, then it just makes it worse and worse. So,
yeah. It's just being, I think, trying to be sensitive to that reality and thinking ahead of time. Andy and I try to advocate all the time for just doing a little mental health planning ahead of things. Like if you've got,
so true.
If you know these things are coming, as opposed to getting caught up in it in the moment where it like just kind of hits you in that second.
Sometimes you don't know that, but sometimes you do.
Yeah, because sometimes, cousin Marv shows up and you don't know that he's going to be there. And turns out cousin Marv was a real piece of work back when you were a kid. And
probably still is.
And he said some things to you that like have always just like taken up residence in your brain. I get it. Like the cousin Marv moments, those will happen. But there's plenty of stuff, I think, where there's been a few of these things we've done with a few of these instances we've done with our own family, where it's kind of like, okay, here are the potential things that we're going to be encountering. We're a few weeks out. Okay, how is it like us? What is it that we will do to respond to these things? What's a healthy way to respond to them? How can we navigate these relationships? What things are there that we should say? What things should we not say? Let's coach each other up a little bit. Before those experiences, that can go a long way. Really, quite honestly, there's good research to say that, and there's the sort of going through scenarios in your mind and experiencing them and actually causing yourself a little bit of more controlled anxiety before the actual event does give you a better chance to react appropriately.
Well, and I was going to say something similar. Make sure you're spending time with yourself. Make sure you have time to process everything beforehand going into that, so you can prepare yourself and kind of just be on your own. Yeah, you have that. Yeah, I think that's a good thing too, to prepare. So
yeah.
So I guess, that's when we're talking about, like, we're asking the question, how can families respond to these seasonal challenges in a way? I think, that's one approach.
That self-awareness. I think that's huge.
Yeah. And, and I would love to say that all of us can naturally become more self-aware, and that's just like a gift that naturally occurs, but it takes a lot of work, and it takes
it's just a deficit of all ages, right?
Yeah, right.
It really is.
Yeah. It feels that way for sure. Menessah, when you think about, and again, as we've said before, a lot of your practice really focuses a lot with youth, and with women. I would wonder though if you would have, because you are married, you've got a guy, and a soon-to-be teenage son, and as you've said, who has all the feelings that come along with that age. What is it, just in terms of like men's mental health? What is it that we need to be talking about more? What kind of conversations do we just need to be having? Because I think about myself and kind of my mental health journey and my needs, and then, and thinking of conversations that Andy and I have had. I've been fortunate enough to have people that like can kind of like help guide and direct me, and have like are able to speak into my life in those sort of ways, right? And as we've learned more and more, and the conversations that we have with folks that interact with us through this show and in our own lives, we recognize that that's a sacred place to be at, to be able to have that kind of support group, but that not all men have that, and that there can be a real deficit there. How can we, if you were, as our listeners here who are a lot of dudes, a lot of dads, leading families, trying to be a good spouse, trying to be a good father, what can we do? How can we do better? How can we encourage each other in the area of seeking out resources, and just being a better supportive group? Because I know it can happen. I've been in places where it does happen. It's super powerful. But man, when it's missing, it just it really feels like it's missing, and it feels like it's missing in so many places.
Yeah, good question. I certainly think as a community that the next kind of gear in eliminating some stigma is really targeting adult men, or just boys in general. I think that that's huge. And really specifying that it's okay to talk with someone, but it's not going to look like your classic come in, and it's almost like working with an adolescent. Sometimes when men come in, there's like this, no. I can't even tell you the number of women that I meet with that say, well, my husband, like, we went to a therapist once and he said never again.
Yeah.
Like, what? That just is just like the normal story. And so I think there needs to be a way in which it's marketed, that it's not we're going to sing Kumbaya, hold your hand, and like, let's talk about feelings. But it's an approach from, like, it's more of a coaching approach. It's more of like a mentor approach. It's a men's group. It's a men coming together. And I think because women, like wives, end up becoming really stressed and more demanding and leaving it like kind of freaking out on their husbands, like men tend to like gear themselves towards the wives and how to support them and what to do and what can we do. And then they become stressed, and the financial, they don't want to say no, and they want to provide and still do all of that. But there's a reality that other men are experiencing the exact same thing that they're going through. And so instead of the focus becomes only on what kind of presents we need to get and what activities and where we need to go, it really needs to focus inward on, I want to make sure that in the next like 8 weeks of my time, I am scheduling time with other dudes.
Yeah.
That has to be there. And certainly sometimes when I suggest it to my husband, he's like, I'm fine, whatever. Yeah. Nuh-uh.
Yeah.
And so, but I think that that's important. But if it came from me, I don't know how well delivered, like,
sure,
whatever my delivery method would be, if it would be well received. I just don't know. And so I think that just being out there in the open is important to say, and really hope that, because I think the biggest thing that can really affect men right now are the death of someone that they loved very much. And that is really probably a more black and white issue that could be addressed. And so I think that if you know that you've had someone that you're missing that year, or that they even died around that time, that is just a given to say like, hey, I need to spend more time remembering this person or talking about them or processing that. But it needs to come from other men.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I found that myself. So we've had a stillborn daughter, and I've tried to connect with other men who have had, stillborn kids, and same thing. It's like really like quiet and shut up, and you just have to like coax it out of them. You have to say, all right, like, and you have to kind of lead by example. For me, it's like I always had to go, okay, like this is how I'm feeling, so that they would open up with their feelings with me. So yeah, I get what you mean.
Yeah, even as close as I am with my husband, I think that
well, and
he needs to hear from other dudes.
Well, and of course, and again, and I love Justin dearly. Justin and I we've got a construction project we're doing here in a couple weeks. I'm very excited about it. As Menessah and I were finalizing details for the show today, Justin was also texting me about a build project we got.
Nice.
It's gonna be great. But I would have to imagine, like, to hear, well, in your case, it's like, of course my therapist wife is going to tell me that I should, of course she is. But in general for men, it's like, well, of course my wife is going to tell me that I need to, because this way it can be received. Mm-hmm. Of course my wife is going to tell me that I need to do this thing to get to be better mm-hmm. than I am. And depending on the relationship dynamic there, if a wife's strong encouragement to her husband is received in a spirit of like discontent regularly, mm-hmm. then
that's not
right. Then
mm-hmm.
you're dead in the water. And so it's like, guys, if you know somebody, and I've been super proud of. In our faith community that we're a part of, have had so many awesome conversations with guys coming to me and saying, "Hey, I think so and so is hurting right now," or I think there's mm-hmm. In their marriage or whatever. I'm not asking you, professional, to go and whatever. I'm just trying to understand what is the best approach that I can take, because me and a few other guys we're gonna invite them out mm-hmm. for dinner, and we're gonna have some conversation. I just want to make sure that I'm as well prepared for that as possible. I think that's what real health looks like in that way.
Mm-hmm.
Like a real tribe of people mm-hmm. going after individuals and saying, again, sometimes by the way, I have found that sometimes, and again, depending on the person, sometimes 3 guys going after 1 guy is absolutely the best route, or 5 guys going out, because it's like, well, what's he freaking gonna say? It's like, there is a sense of, because ultimately it's like, well, this many people cared enough,
mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
And in the busy schedules that we have, when you see that kind of intentionality, I mean, I think that is a rare and precious gift when you see
I agree.
People carving time out and resource out to really do it. Myself, Andy, our friend Brian, and Matt, we try every single month on a third.
We try to hang out.
We try to hang out, and we try to carve a day out for it. And those are, and sometimes we get together. Here's the deal: sometimes we get together and it's just normal talk, and sometimes we get together and there is a thing.
Yeah, it's thick.
There is a thing going on, and some of us at the table might be the first people to hear about the thing, and I always think back on that and go, wow, we could have easily not have done that, and that individual would still be carrying that thing. They would, they'd still be working through that on their own, and that's lousy. So
I think sometimes it's just women work differently, right? Women want to get together and they just want to like word vomit. Like, I mean, that's just what women do. Like they just, and I mean, they could talk forever and ever and ever. Men don't always even have to talk about the problem. They just get together and like somehow, like, because I've experienced this where I knew something was bothering Justin, and he's gone and hung out with other guys, and I said, "Hey, did you talk about?" No. Oh, well, why not? Well, no, we just hung out.
But I feel better. Yeah.
It's the ministry of presence. That's what it is. Yeah. So yeah, I think Menessah, that's super helpful. I just we always want to continue to be encouragers of people seeking out the resources are available, the help is available. Mm-hmm. You got to take the first step, and we promise for those of us that are doing coaching and counseling, we won't bite, We are. This is our job. We do work with people, but we're really just dedicated to seeing people be at their best and to experience healing and to have hope, and especially during this holiday season. This is the season where we are reminded that we have great hope, and we just want that. We want that to be the case for each and every one of you that are listening. So I guess I'll say this: hey, if there's something going on in your life, you can always reach out to us. We're always available here at the show too. Would love to have a conversation with you. If there's any way we can resource you, encourage you, whatever it is, we're here. We always say that this show is about building community. We want to help dudes and dads and families. We want to help you guys thrive. So, yeah. Well, hey, Andy, are we? Is now the time?
Now it's time for the Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz.
Oh yeah,
Oh, no.
Pop quiz time. So if you've never joined us, now is the time that we just pepper our guests with random questions and just try to get to know them a little bit better. It has nothing to do with the topic most of the time has nothing to do with the topic that we're talking about. But so with that, I will go first with the Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz. If you could change one thing about yourself, what would it be?
My legs, I would be taller.
So I have never asked this question. How tall exactly are you?
I mean, how short am I?
Well, yeah. How short are you?
I may be 5'2". Maybe 5'2". Yeah.
Maybe.
She may be. Okay.
That's what it says on my driver's license.
Okay, well, that's official
Does that
then.
count?
That's good. Okay, here we go. What's your favorite thing about the place? What's your favorite thing about any place that you have lived? So if there's like because you've been around a little bit. So like what's the favorite?
I would say when I lived in Australia, there was all kinds of terrain. So you went from the Great Barrier Reef down to a city on a beach, all the way out to, Red Canyons. And that was probably my favorite part.
All right. I'm actually going to let Reagan ask this next one.
Okay. Go for it, Reagan.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
Don't break your mic.
I'm going to.
Best piece of advice. Oh, I think the first thing that comes to mind is just patience. And I don't think I've adapted that until just in the last year.
Just be
Patient.
Just be patient. I only know that because when Justin talks about the build project, I wasn't catching a patient vibe on your timeline. But I get it. It's fine. It's fine.
There's like phases.
Yeah, sure. No, I get it. I understand.
I need to grow the business.
Yeah. We have things to do. Okay, Menessah, what famous animal movie character do you like the most?
Famous animal movie character.
So this can be like an animated. This can be like an animated movie or whatever works.
I mean, I'm just gonna go with Simba. I really think Simba.
Perfect.
Solid. Okay.
All right. Last question from me. What is the worst job you've ever had?
Oh, good one.
Gosh, I hope no one's listening.
I didn't say you had to name it by name.
Oh, well.
You could just tell us what you did for the job.
Okay. Let's see. Well, in high school, I wore a poodle skirt.
Yes.
When I worked at a diner.
Oh, so it was like one of these like theme diner kind of places.
Yeah.
A dino that's no longer around?
With a skirt. Yeah, it is no longer around with a skirt and like a little necktie, and I had to wear my hair and everything. It was awful. I will never waitress. That was my last waitressing job I've ever had. I will never waitress ever again.
Did you? What is the weirdest food that you've ever eaten?
Sea urchin, eggs.
Sea urchin eggs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Lucas tried them. He loved them. He asked for seconds when we went to Croatia.
Gotcha. So is that a Croatian meal? I don't know. I don't know if I just don't know if I've ever heard of that before. Like fish, like fish eggs, yes, but sea urchin.
It would be probably similar. I mean, it was just like sea urchin, like it was a ball and it had like these tentacles and they just like move, and then you cut it open and it still kind of moves and there's eggs in the middle.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Interesting.
It was very interesting.
Well, that's
Tasty.
that's all the time that we have.
We're out of time.
Thanks so much. Menessah, congratulations. You have officially passed the Dudes and Dads Pop Quiz. Yeah.
Congratulations.
With flying colors. Hey, we do want to just say again, Menessah, thanks for joining us tonight. Hey, everybody, you know where to head.
Dudesanddadspodcast.com.
Dudesanddadspodcast.com. Got all the show notes. We will make Menessah embarrassingly easy to find over there with all the links. You can get in touch with her if you'd like. And you can head over to the website. Check that out. Also, if you got any, you want to reach out, dudesanddadspodcast@gmail.com. Great way to get in touch with us. Love to hear your comments, your reflections.
All those things.
All of those things. Andy, is there anything else that we need to tell these people?
We'll be back. We're just going to be gone for about a couple days. Well, until January. We'll be back in January.
We'll be back in January with season 5. So until season 5, friends, we wish you Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and grace
and peace.
And peace. Later.
Wow, we barely made that one out again.